Hey, this is Amber Hines from Equalize Digital, and I am going to show you in this video how you can use ChatGPT to fix accessibility problems on your website. I totally understand that if you are a developer, you are freaking out right now and saying, no way, don't do that. But for people who are like me, like I understand code, I understand accessibility really well, but I'm not super great at JavaScript, ChatGPT can be really helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you a really specific example of how I use ChatGPT to write JavaScript to fix a problem with accordions on a WordPress website. Let's dive in. All right, so here's what we are looking at. We have a page up. It's a copy of our Global Accessibility Awareness Day webpage from the Equalize Digital website. And on this, I can see an H2 event FAQ. And then under it, there's a bunch of questions. Do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? What if I only have an hour to spare? How do I find accessibility issues to work on? All of those sort of things. These are accordions that I can click with my mouse to open and close. And if I use my keyboard without a screen reader on, they seem pretty good. I can tab to it. I can use the return key to open and close them. So you might say, hey, these look accessible. Oh, hitting space does not do that. It just scrolls me down. What does that tell me? That tells me right there that these are links, not buttons. If I inspect them, then I see, let's get this in view, that indeed there is a link on here, not a button. So this is not the appropriate markup. And I noticed that if I check them with accessibility checker, I also get a bunch of errors on these. So it tells me broken skip or anchor link. This happens because when I look at the code, we can see that I have a link with an href that is linking to a hashtag for the ID that matches the title of the accordion, but there is no actual div with this ID or other element with this ID on the page. And so from a HTML standpoint, this is wrong and incorrect because a link normally would take me somewhere, not open and close an element. And of course, this looks broken. Sometimes you see these actually where there's nothing, no ID here. And so instead of getting a broken skip or anchor link, you might see the improper use of link error in accessibility checker. Either way, these are the same problem, which is that I have an accordion that does not function properly for accessibility and does not follow proper HTML markup. Let me close this out and we can listen to it as well. So I'm going to turn on VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on Brave, group. You are currently on a tab inside of heading level 2, heading level 2, event FAQ.
So I'm on the heading 2. If I tab to these, let's see what they say.
Link. Do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? Global Accessibility Awareness Day, article. You are currently on a link. To click that link, what if I only have an hour to spare? You are link. How do I find accessibility issues to work on? You are currently on a link. To click this link, press Control, Option, Space.
So obviously we heard that these are links. This would be pretty confusing for me because I would think if I click the return key, this is going to take me somewhere else. But what does it do? It expands the accordion and it says nothing. This is a perfect example of why it's really important to do screen reader testing and not just keyboard testing, because if I was just doing this with a keyboard, I might think this is okay, this is usable, when in fact it's really not. So how do I fix this problem? There are a couple of things to do. One, I could go back to the developer of the plugin and say, hey, these accordions have these accessibility issues, go fix them. That is the best thing to do. However, this is a really weird scenario. Our website, which we are planning to rebuild really soon, was built more than 6 years ago, and this accordion block that we used on it is no longer supported. It actually doesn't even exist on WordPress.org anymore, this plugin. So I can't go and ask the developer to fix it. Now, of course, what did we do? On our live website, we fixed it a long time ago. If you go look at it, you don't see this problem on our live website. But I want to show you how I could fix this then as someone who would say, okay, I have a whole bunch of these all over my website. I don't have time to switch plugins because that's another option. I could switch plugins. Or as of WordPress 6.9, we're going to have an accordion block in core, which means I could go rebuild that. But let's say you have these accordions everywhere, all over your website. So then that means you can't go to that developer. You have to fix it. The easiest way or the most common way to do this is to do it with JavaScript. So what did I do?
VoiceOver off.
So now that I've turned VoiceOver off, we're going to talk about what my options are for fixing this and how I, as a code savvy person, but not a developer, that's what I'm going to call myself, how I would go about fixing this. So the first thing that I would do is I would inspect this in DevTools. And I would go all the way up to my entire section, the top level item. So I've got a div class equals wp-block-koiken-accordion space koiken-accordion-9 space koiken-accordion-ready. So I'm going to go to that entire div that contains all of the accordions within it. And I am going to right click and I'm going to hit copy element. And then what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I say to ChatGPT, this is the prompt I give it, write scripts that can be added into the footer of a WordPress page to fix the accessibility of these accordions. The links should be buttons with ARIA expanded and ARIA controls, and the questions should be H3s. Now, I know in my case that it is correct that these should be H3s. If we look at this page, it is following an H2, and I know that everywhere on the site that we've used it, they are always H3s. You might have to make your prompt a little bit different if the heading level is not always the same. But in this case, I can do that. So I give it this prompt, and then I paste it in this entire block of code all the way down. And then what it says to me, here's a JavaScript snippet you can add to the head. We want to put it in the footer of your WordPress site or in a plugin or theme to improve the accessibility of the Koiken accordions. It gave me a script that converts the A tag to button elements for toggle controls, adds ARIA expanded and ARIA controls attributes, converts the accordion titles to heading 3 elements for semantic structure, and ensures that each accordion panel has an ID. Perfect. So I grab this. Now let's make sure we're on a staging site, right? Not on our live website. I happen to be using a theme where I can go in the customizer and I can go header footer scripts and I can just paste this in. Now, you may not have that in your theme. There are a bunch of code snippets plugins that are free on WordPress.org that you can use to do this. Or if you are a more advanced developer and you have a custom theme, you could also obviously put the code there, which would be the best place. But regardless, what you want to do is have this script load in the footer. So I have added that and in the customizer. And if I look at my preview, I can see, okay, now I've got button styles. This is interesting. It's okay, maybe that would work, except for they all look like buttons. I don't know if I actually want to lose the styles for these elements. So I thought about this and I'm like, okay, I could do this. I could keep it where they are buttons because this is the proper semantic markup, but then I'm going to have to also write a bunch of CSS styles. And I don't want to do that. That could be very time consuming. So I realized right away, I don't want to write all that CSS or ask ChatGPT to do it. I liked the styles that it had when it was a link. So I went back to ChatGPT and I said, this is breaking too much. Instead of changing the link to a button, add role equals button to the link. And so then it gave me this script, which keeps them as a link, but semantically calls them buttons. So I'm going to copy the code, go back to my customizer, delete the previous script, and instead paste in this new script. Okay, now it looks the same with this script. I'm going to go ahead and hit publish. Remember, I'm on a staging site, so it's safe for me to do this. It's not impacting anything on my live site yet. And once this has published, I'm going to go back to my page, and I just do this in another tab. I leave this tab open, and I'm going to go ahead and hit refresh on this page. And I'm going to do some initial looking at the element. So we'll just go ahead. It looks the same. I can click it with my mouse. I can tab to it. Oh, my return key doesn't seem like it works. That's a little weird. Have to figure out why that is. And then I'm looking at this and I can see it does have roll equals button. Let's see if it told it spacebar. Nope, it's still not opening. But it is toggling ARIA expanded true and false. So this is where things get interesting and you have to try and troubleshoot a little bit. It does seem like it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, but visually it doesn't open and close unless I click it with a mouse. So why is that? Something is happening on mouse interaction that the space bar and the return key is not supporting. So what I would do then typically is I would open it with my mouse like I've done here and inspect this and try to figure out, is something different about these panels? So I can see it's got a class of accordion item content, the accordion panel. There's ARIA labeled by, referencing it. Let's keep going. Let's look at the link for the expanded one. So I also noticed, okay, so I'm looking at, there's the link that we've given a roll of button and what the class is, and then there's a div that this entire panel or accordion is in. And in this one, I can see we have a class of wp-block-quicken-accordion-item and quicken-accordion-item and quicken-accordion-item-active. And then if I close this with my mouse, the accordion item active class goes away. So what this tells me, and if I tab to this and I hit the return key, it is triggering it, giving it the ARIA expanded equals false, but what it's not doing is adding that active class onto the container div, which this particular plugin happens to be looking for in order to actually visually show the accordion. So again, when you're doing this, it takes a little bit of sleuthing. So I go back to ChatGPT and I said, when an item is opened with the return key or spacebar, change the div with a class of wp-block-quicken-accordion-item space quicken-accordion-item to wp-block-quicken-accordion-item space quicken-accordion-item space quicken-accordion-item-active. So this is me thinking, this is what I need in order to actually make this function with a keyboard. So then ChatGPT gives me this script. So I'm going to copy the code, go back to my customizer, delete this other code, paste in the new script from ChatGPT. And then I'm going to hit publish. Now I'm going to refresh my page one more time. And I am going to test this with my mouse. Uh-oh, something weird happened. It opens for a second and then it slides closed the first time. The second time it seems okay. Something odd, right? Then I test it with my mouse. Return still doesn't work. Spacebar still doesn't work. Seems odd. I went back to ChatGPT and I said, you suck. No, I didn't say that. That's what I wanted to say. I said, these are still not expanding via the keyboard. Here is what the original accordion looks like expanded. And I gave them the entire HTML for a single expanded accordion. And then I said, and collapsed. And I gave them the original HTML for a collapsed accordion. And I said, what needs to change about the code to make the expanded/collapse work? And then ChatGPT comes back and says, thanks for the clarification. The issue is that Quiken's accordion relies on toggling the style display block and display none properties directly on the Quiken accordion item content div rather than using the hidden attribute or ARIA expanded alone. So it took that information. Obviously, ChatGPT is super verbose. It said a bunch more that isn't really relevant. But basically what it did was it changed those styles and then added or removed the class that I already had to do. So when I went and inspected and I looked for it, I missed that these are other things that needed change. So sometimes if you just go and you paste it in and you say, this is what I see in these two different states, what's different, then it can help figure it out. So I'm going to copy that code, go back to my customizer, delete the script that didn't work, paste in the new one, hit publish. And then if I go back to my page, I refresh it again. I'm also going to add a no cache parameter this time just to make sure I'm getting the right script. So I am now going to check it with the mouse. Still getting a weird flash, right? The first time. Type it with the keyboard. Return key, spacebar, spacebar, return key. So there's still something a little odd happening for mouse users, but it seems a little bit better for screen reader users. And if I watch on that link with the roll of button, one of the things that I did notice about this that is a problem is when I have that initial flash and it doesn't open, and then I click it again and it opens, my ARIA expanded can get reversed. So in this instance, you can see I have expanded the first accordion, but in the inspect element view in DevTools, it actually says ARIA expanded equals false. And if I close that, it goes back to true. False. So it's reversed in this instance. I think related to that initial flash where it doesn't quite work. So I went back to ChatGPT and I said, the expanded and collapse is read in reverse here. These start collapsed. And so, of course, it says, oh, good job. You noticed my mistake. And it gives me a corrected script. We'll copy that code, go back to the customizer, put in the new code, hit publish, then go back to my page, add another number so I get another no cached version of the page and refresh. Now if I inspect these, I am seeing ARIA expanded equals false as the first value, and I click it with my mouse, and it's still doing something weird, right? So I went back to ChatGPT and I said, these work great with the keyboard, but now they briefly open before collapsing again if clicked with the mouse. This only happens the first time when clicked. The second time they open and close as expected, only the ARIA expanded is backward. So ChatGPT seems to think that the issue is caused by a race between our script in the footer's click handler and the original Quiken script's default accordion behavior. Specifically, they think their script is still attached to the click event, and when you click with the mouse, both scripts fired. And so our script toggles it open, and theirs immediately toggles it back closed. So it needs to stop the plugin script from firing. So let's get that code that it copied, paste it in. You can see there's a comment in here that says stop immediate propagation function, and it says prevent Quicken script from firing. Pasting that in, publish, go back to my page. Let's make sure we have a non-cached version. Okay, so now I'm going to check for broken mouse clicks. When I open and close the accordion the first time with the mouse, it works. Let's tab to it, return key, open and close, spacebar, open and close. Also, I can watch my ARIA expanded attribute. Currently, this first item is collapsed and it says false. I've expanded it and it says true with the spacebar. Same thing with the return key. Expanded true, collapsed false with the mouse. Expanded true, collapsed false. Ooh, this seems like it might work. I can also see, let's go ahead and close that and open headings map. I can see in the headings map that I do have the proper heading structure now. I have my heading 2 for event FAQ, and I have heading 3s for all of the individual questions. So this seems like this might have fixed my problem. Let's turn on the screen reader and give it a listen.
Voiceover on Brave. Global Accessibility Awareness Day Pledge, May 15th, 2000. Q. Selected. You are currently on a heading level 2.
All right, now that I have voiceover on, I am going to tab to the first element.
Do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? Collapsed. Button. Group. You are currently on a button. Group. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space.
See how great that was? It told me it was a button. It told me it was collapsed, unlike before when it just said link. And then remember, previously when I triggered it with the return key, it wouldn't say anything. So now if I press the return key,
do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? Expanded. Button. Group.
Now it told me that it's expanded. Spacebar.
Do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? Collapsed. Button. Group.
Collapsed.
Do I need to be an accessibility expert or developer to participate? Expanded. Button. Group. Link. Link. What if I only have an hour to spare? Collapsed. Button. Group. What if I only have an hour to spare? Expanded. Button. Group. You are currently on a button. Group. To click this button, press Control, Option, Space.
So you can hear now that when I open and close these accordions, it actually tells me what they are. Let's turn voiceover off.
Voiceover off.
So as we just heard, when I interact with these with both my spacebar and the return key, it is actually telling me whether they are expanded or collapsed. I have checked and I have the proper heading structure. They also say that they are buttons instead of links. And if I open Accessibility Checker, remember I had 9 errors, and those were all of these accordions here. All 9 of them had an error. So if I rescan this page with Accessibility Checker, we can now see that I have 0 errors. So obviously there's some warnings, things that I need to look into, but those specific problems that we had here with the broken skip or anchor link are all fixed. Now I know that this accordion is all over my website. So what I would do now is I would go run another full site scan so that it would fix all of the instances where this is, because this particular script is going to be on every page fixing every accordion. I hope you found this example of using ChatGPT to help write scripts to fix accessibility problems on your WordPress website helpful. The biggest tips that I have for you is that, first of all, you need to be really clear about what the problem is with ChatGPT and how you expect it to fix it. So I don't typically recommend just relying on scripts from ChatGPT if you don't have a solid understanding of what you're looking for and what the problems are from an accessibility standpoint. You need to be able to double check ChatGPT's work to make sure what it's doing is correct. For example, at one point in time, in the middle of this remediation, we saw that ChatGPT was reversing the ARIA expanded attribute. If we didn't know what it was supposed to say at what point in time, that might have been something that we missed. So you do really have to have a deep understanding of accessibility. But if you have that solid knowledge of what is supposed to be happening on the website, and you give ChatGPT enough information by copying in, as I did, large chunks of code out of the inspector, then you can get very good results. And this sort of AI supported development can really speed up your remediation time and help you solve problems that you're seeing in Accessibility Checker or with your manual testing faster. Thanks for tuning in. Please hit like on this video, subscribe to our channel so you can find more, and we'll be back in the future with more accessibility remediation and testing tips.